Hi everybody and welcome to Pescari Fly here for another Saturday Night Live flight time. I hope it surely is Billy Boland. It's fucking freezing out there. I hope everybody's keeping well. I hope everyone's had a good 2 weeks. We weren't on last week, of course. I forget what I was up to last week that I couldn't make a show. We were so busy getting ready for the North Kildare show. Sorry, folks. Wasn't able to make last week. We did the North Kildare angler show and had a great Sunday up there. Great meeting all the people and stuff like that. But Saturday night was just bad because we brought a load of stuff with us and trying to pack up, and it was a busy week here in the shop and stuff like that. So, but I hope everyone's keeping well. I hope everyone's had a good week. Seasons are opening up a little bit more and more and more every week. So anyone that got out on the 1st of March or since then, I hope you've had a good bit of fishing. How you doing, John Walsh? Good to have you on with us there. Patrick Burke, Robbie Berry, hope you're keeping well, Robbie. Graham Lanigan there, good stuff. A few wets for the river shore on the 17th of March. I'll be out myself. How you doing, Peter Wadding, John Johnson? Yano's on there as well. Billy Boland, Declan Noonan, Adrian Codd, Brendan Spillane, Brian Kennedy, hope you're keeping well, Brian, and Joe Hanlon's on there, Patrick McCarthy. Good man, Patrick. I actually saw your message when I was sitting here thinking, sugar, I didn't press the sound button. So thanks for that little. Mark Joyce, Adrian Codd said, Nigel Haynes from South Wales, good to have you on with us there. Nigel, Dave is on there as well. Dave will be along with his trivia question in a little while, folks. Don't forget to watch out for that one in the newsfeed. Georgie Burge is on with us there. Good to have you on with us, George. And I hope everyone's keeping well. How you doing, Kevin? Jenny Casey's on with us there as well. John Ditch, good evening to yourself. Aaron Owens, good to have you on, Aaron. Hope everybody's keeping well and is enjoying the fishing. Anyone that's got out, we're going to head into a pretty dire cold spell now. How you doing, Garrett? We're going to head into a pretty cold spell next week, so that'll probably put the fishing back a little bit for any of those lucky people that live near places that are open on either the 15th of February or the 1st of March. But please God, that'll be the last of it then, and we'll get on into the season and enjoy a good season. How you doing, Mark Fitzgerald? So tonight's show, folks, we got lined up for you. Don't forget, if you haven't hit that share button, hit that share button. How you doing, David Hannaford and Niall is on there with us as well. So tonight's show, we're a bit of a mixed bag. So this is our second last show. How you doing, Hugh Flavin? Good to catch up with you today, Hugh in the shop. This is our second last show, folks. Next week is our last show. It's always the end of it is the last Saturday before Patrick's Day. So after that, everyone kind of gets busy. The evenings get a bit longer, and doing shows aren't really probably big match tomorrow. Robbie, who's playing tomorrow? Robbie, is that football or hurling? How you doing, Paul Burke? Good to have you on with us, Paul. Shows after that kind of, I don't know if they'd work or not. So this is our second last show. So for tonight, so I've been trying to, every week after I do a show, it's just, I get so, how you doing, Bernard? Hi, Kieran, Sherlock. I get so many messages all week about different things people want to see. Anytime I can talk about this or do a show here or do a show there, do a show on the Corrib, do a show on Mask. There's so many shows I could be doing. Unfortunately, I'm only one man. And to do these shows at that kind of scale, it'd be talking about a lot of commitment. All right, Robbie, I might be washing my hair. I might wash my hair that evening. How you doing, Jared? What time is that on, Robbie? But so look, there's loads of shows, but I'm trying to, between tonight and tomorrow or next week, there's a few things that I get asked for regularly, and those are the things I'm going to kind of hit on for the last two shows. So tonight's about jig streamers. We're going to try a couple of cracking jig streamers for you later on in the show. How you doing, Kevin Hamill? That might be more like it, Brian Kennedy. So we're going to do some jig streamers, and an awful lot of people ask me about detached bodies. So we're going to try a couple of very simple detached bodies, really handy for the mayflies and stuff like that coming up. Even some duck fly can be quite effective with a detached body. Daddies, gnats. There's a whole load of them. Flies that we can use some nice simple detached bodies. So we're going to start a bit of that. Say Dave Donovan's going to be along with his trivia, and Robbie Berry's back on with us for another instalment. Of course, Robbie's had regular instalments here all throughout the winter months for us, giving us some great information on feather care and feather harvesting. So Robbie's on here again, talking a bit about hen pheasants and stuff like that, and what sort of feathers we can do, we can get off a hen pheasant. So absolutely, Simon. Yeah, it's going to be freezing next week. So stay with us for the night, folks. We're going to have a good evening and some nice stuff. So we're getting technical first. We're going to talk about detached bodies. Okay, we all know what they are. There's foam detached bodies. There's, how you doing, Michael Callaghan? There's foam detached bodies. How you doing, Glenn? Foam detached bodies. There's deer hair detached bodies. There's dubbing detached bodies. There's quite a few, and there's a few I use regularly, and these are the kind of ones I'm going to show you first. But firstly, I'm going to show you probably the most simple of us all. That's a furled detached body. Really, really simple. Anyone can make one of these, and it's a very quick little detached body. Now, you can use several materials for tying detached bodies, but I tend to use this really soft It's called streamer hair, and I'm going to be using some of the streamer hair later on in some of the streamers or jig streamers we're going to be tying. How you doing, Colin O'Gara? We're going to be using some of this a little bit later on, but I'm also going to show you how to do a little furled detached body with this one. And this is for anyone that's kind of really getting into the exploring of detached bodies and stuff like that. You know, it's relatively easy, and you can do quite a bit with it if you play around with it. So we just take a small little section. There's a couple of inches long of a little bit of that streamer hair, and I'm just going to tin it out even a little bit finer. You don't want it too thick. Kind of give it a bit of a twist to get a look at what sort of diameter your body's going to be afterwards, and maybe take out one or two more. Now you can do them with just one colour, and they're quite nice, they're quite solid as well, but I always tend to put a bit of molten in there. How you doing, James Kavanagh? A little bit of kind of colour in there as well, or you can put a little bit of flash. So what I have here for the olive one is kind of a yellow, fairly fluorescent hank of tinsel or flash or whatever you want to call it, and I'll put one strand of that. Sometimes I'll put one or two strands just in there with that, and I just give them a quick little twist in together, okay? And what I'll do is I normally trim off one end, say, okay? Just trim it off clean. Just nice and clean there, trim that off. And what I'll do is I'll catch that end, keeping it quite bunched together between my finger and thumb, and I'll put it into the jaws of the vice there and get a good grip on it. So it's like so, okay? How you doing, Grode? And what I'll do then is I'll start to twist it. So you can see it twisting in my hand. Okay, so I start to twist it, and you can see it all twisting up there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm furling. Okay, we mentioned furling on other shows before. How you doing, Anthony? We mentioned furling on other shows before where we furled a hackle. Okay, and the same, we're just spinning it up, okay? This is the easiest way to do it. Now, once you've got it spun fairly tight, all depends on how tight you want your furls to be and how small the material is. What I'll do then is I'll catch a needle. I have it here somewhere. I'll catch a needle and I'll place the needle into the middle section where I want it to furl. Up a little bit higher to me. And then once you get that to bend, it just starts to furl in on itself. Give it a little bit of a tug. And there we go. Catch it. Take it out. And there you have a lovely little furled body. Quite strong. A little bit of molten on there from that little bit of olive yellow. You know, for detached mayflies, for dragonflies, I use the furling a lot for dragonflies. It's very, very similar to a dragon tail. And you can get some really great colours with blues and all that kind of stuff. You know, so you can do a very nice mayfly tail. Obviously, so once I let go of it, it starts to unfurl a bit. One I did earlier, and it kind of stuck a bit better. But you know, you mount that onto your hook then, and you got your tail. You can do some more like daddy bodies and stuff with some tan, with a little bit of brown thread. I have a little bit of brown UTC thread going through that one, a little bit of molten on it, and super effective. And if I was doing ones, let's say for the little gnats, I often do one for little gnats and stuff. I'll go to my black fibre hair, and it's basically just a soft hair. Okay, you can do it with anything. You can do it with thread, you can do it with flosses, you can do it with anything. But I just like this kind of stuff because, thanks John, I like this kind of streamer hair because I can really get tight furls on it, okay? So I can really get it twisted. It's a lot of giving it, and it actually stays quite strong. So if I was doing a little gnat, say a little black gnat, or I was doing a little adult duck fly or a midge or something like that, I'd get a little bit of black. There was a Norwegian fly tyer one time who wrote a great book on furling, and it was all about furling hackles and furling material. It was a brilliant book. I had it years ago, and like on the other great book, someone got a lend of it and never gave it back. So if I was doing a little gnat or even a little duck fly or something, I'd really get maybe even half that again. I mightn't go that big, but if I go really small, you won't actually excuse the colour of my fingers, folks. I was doing a bit of dyeing today as well, and my fingers, I can't get the bloody dye off my fingers, but I'm doing a bit of dyeing up a bit of olive there. So really get a good tight wrap on this for the midges and stuff. Really spin it for literally as much as you can. Absolutely growed. That's so it's just that word is coming into my mouth. The Palomino midge, absolutely fantastic for it. Again, hold your needle. This is the best way to do it. Get your needle because that'll get nice and neat. And then you can get it in there. And there for your little jalapeno midge and stuff like that, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. And you can see how fine I can get them, like, you know, lovely little bit of a ribbon on it, like little bit of, you know, segmentation coming down that, and it's actually quite strong. If you want to give it a little bit more strength, you can flue it, but like once you've got that tied onto the hook, yeah, it's unbelievable, Kieran, isn't it? Yeah, Graham. No, I wish Dave did have it because I would get it back off Dave. But you know, if once you get that tied onto your hook, it's really robust. you know, and there's a nice bit of softness in it. It's not too, hey Gianluca, it's a nice bit of softness, not too restrictive that if a trout comes up and, you know, doesn't really turn them off, you can really get some lovely little midge patterns and stuff with the black, as you can see, the little bit of ribbon. So that's a furled hackle, probably one of the most easiest detached bodies to tie of all, and you can have great fun with that, you know, and play around with different materials. I did a lot of playing around with that stuff, and I used to get some great bodies, especially for dragonflies and stuff like that. You can do much bigger ones as well, and add in a whole load of colours, and get some really cool effects on those furled detached bodies. They're most of the ones I use them for daddies and stuff like that as well, and they're just you know, really handy and neat little detached bodies. So that's the first one. The next one we're going to actually look at is one that I was actually tying this week. Now, just before we go, we have to, you know, start doing something. And this time we're going to talk, the next two we're going to talk about how to mount them as well on the hook, okay, which is very important. It's all well and good tying up. Obviously those little furled ones are quite easy. You just attach them onto your hook, and then normally a detached body is going to be on a curved hook, which would be, you know, a B100 or a, you know, something like that. Normally your body will come off because it will come off the back of the hook. So most of the detached body flies would be on a kind of a curved hook. There's several tools that we have for making the other detached bodies. Good stuff, Colin. This is a tool by Stonefo. Okay, I'll actually take it out of the vice a bit so you can see it. Okay, so we got a little spring on the back, and then we come into this little knuckle here, and that goes down into the vice like so, and it just comes out to a long point at the end. Now the idea, the spring at the back is for holding materials, that as you're building your detached body, it holds materials back, like your anchor thread. So we got cores, you got to have a core in all your detached bodies, which helps to give it strength and stability when it's tied onto the hook. Okay? So very important, and we'll talk a bit about core and how to look at our cores and stuff when we go through the next two hooks. So that little spring thing is handy, but also we got spring thing on our vice here, so you can see just in the bare corner. So that works in that. So this is a handy tool, and I do use it. The only thing I find about it is the diameter of that bar. If I'm tying small stuff, that's a little bit big for more than my liking. Okay, so it's a little bit big, handy tool, sits very neat in the voice and stuff like that. The one I always go back to and always find the best is a simple sewing needle. Okay, simple sewing needle. I'm going to turn this camera just a slight bit now so everyone can see the end of this. So simple sewing needle, it doesn't really, you know, get much simpler than that, and that's probably one of the better. You know, they're very, very smooth as well. Really easy to slip off your body, and because it's tapered right at the end, you know, the body, once you've built your body on your needle, it slides off very easy, which is a very important part. Trust me, there's nothing worse than after spending a bit of time making a beautifully attached body and then go to slide it off and it won't come off, or it's too tight and it falls apart in your hand as you're sliding it off. Another tool I do use, depending on the shape I want my body, I will use a curved needle. Okay, so if I want a body in a mayfly or a daddy or whatever may be propping up off that fly, I will use a curved one. So when I actually build my body on that, it will take the shape of this. It will take that natural shape of the needle, and it can give you a real nice effect on some detached bodies and some mayflies and stuff like that. Another time I use that, depending on the pattern, but 99% of the time I'm going to use a simple needle. Okay, very simple needle. Not a big one, kind of medium size, I suppose. I don't know if there is a way of talking about. Let's bring that down just a little bit now, make sure we get the full view of this one. Right, I'm not sure really if there is much of a way of grading or the thicknesses of needles anyway. Now what I do use the Kevlar. Okay, Kevlar has a couple of real advantage points here of using this. One, it's super strong. So remember we were talking about the core. So when I attach my Kevlar onto my needle, I will leave this long tag end out, and I will purposely leave it quite long because that's going to be the core of my detached body. It's so strong as well, it acts as a great anchor point. So you'll see when we actually get the detached body finished and I take it off, how I will get that core connected to the tail. And when I tie it in, I'm very conscious of that core has been tied in quite well on the hook. So the tail, excuse me, the tail of material and the actual the detached body is well anchored to the hook. Okay, nothing worse than your first trout is going to rise up and take your fly, and he takes the detached body with him as well. So you got to, how you doing, Wayne Murphy? You got to make sure that, you know, it's got a good anchor. So I always leave that tag end on out there, and that's out there to stay. That'll go back into my little spring at the back of the hook. So a couple of loose wraps down along the needle, just to get your Kevlar on. And the best thing with this Kevlar is it is super, you know, it's not waxed, so it will slide off really, really easy. Okay, it slides off that needle very, very easy once I've got it made. Now this is one of our foam detached bodies. Now I have done some of these before, but again, the people that were asking me for the last couple of months about doing detached bodies, they particularly wanted to see some of the foam ones. Okay, so here I got some 2mm foam sheets. Okay, simple foam sheets. And what I'm going to do is cut a little strip of it. Now again, you can mess with the diameter here yourself. Okay, as regards the diameter you want of your detached body, depending on how thick you cut your foam in depth wise. Okay, that'll depend on how you want to. I hope so, George. I hope we get some rain at some stage. It depends on how you want to get your body to look. Okay, so there's a straight strip. Okay, if we were to put that on now, we wouldn't get a really good taper. Okay, so when you're actually cutting your strips, just before you do, cut it slightly in at a bit of an angle, and then cut it back out. So you've got that shape there. Okay, you can see it. And then I'll do the same on the opposite side. So when I fold this over in half and put this onto my needle, there will be a taper on it. So we'll have a nice taper on our body. And I just dropped it onto the floor. 1 second now, folks, to find that. It will give us a nice taper on our body. Now when you play around with this, you can get these really, really small. I've had to get them really small. A little bit of word of advice. Punch a hole then in the middle. Don't do it over the needle as it is now. Punch a hole in that with a dubbing needle right in the middle of the narrowest point possible. Okay, I'm just going to push a little hole there and just make sure that's there. Give it a bit of a twist in it, and that'll be there. And that's to save us, because it's so slim there in the center section. If we go to pull that over that needle, there's a good chance we'll break it. Okay, so just pre-prep your foam like so. Okay, so once we've got our thread attached on, we've pre-made our foam, we're going to add in a bit of tailing material. Now, boar is a very good tailing material for doing detached bodies, very, very strong. And if I was doing any dubbing detached bodies, which are a little bit slower and a little bit, could be a little bit frustrating at times, I will always use boar, because boar is the anchor. Boar is your main stem coming up through that body, and it's going to give it strength. Okay, for the likes of these mayfly wands and the foam wands, because I've got my Kevlar in there, I can afford to use a little bit of pheasant tail or something like that. Not as strong as the boar, but I like the pheasant tail. So we'll take 3 strands of black pheasant tail off this one, and we'll tie that in there. Again, not putting massive pressure on me tying thread, but enough to hold that pheasant tail in there. And I'll wrap it on down along. Okay. Now bring your thread off down out of the way. Don't have it up there. Get it out of the way for yourself for a moment. Even hang it back on that little piece of spring back there. And now we're going to get on our material. So we got to get that material on. We're going to get it on over the. Shove it right through. Not too much pressure, and it slides in lovely. Don't worry about the tail. The tail is fine. Okay. Get your dubbing needle and just pull the tail through. But there was no pressure on the foam there, because we had already had a hole already formed in it, and it goes over nice with no pressure. So even the finest little piece of foam, you won't. Moose mane is very good as well. Yes, George. You won't put any pressure. Now I'll unwind my Kevlar back up along a little bit till I get back up those extra winds, and just bring your Kevlar up there to the base of where the. Let's say the thread is on the pheasant tail. I can see the thread on the pheasant tail just above the foam. Very fine there. It mightn't be easy for you guys to see it, but I can see it just above the foam. So I just move that up a couple of mil without shoving it off, and get my thread up there as well. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold our 2 sides of our foam over like so, and shove it up there, so we have a nice clean transition between the foam body and the foam body and the tail. Okay, now get your thread and a couple of wraps up there to form your first segment. Not a massive amount of pressure on the thread. You don't want to cut through the foam, but give it a couple of turns there. Make sure it's nice and secure. And there's our first little segment. There's our hi Josh Walker's on there as well. Yeah, Josh is on there. Can't wait for the 17th. We can't wait for the 17th either. To get the fishing going, and of course, absolutely fish coin. Get some points up on the fish coin board. So what we got to do here now is I'll take my thread up, and I'll go in under that top this wrap here. Okay, this piece of foam here, and then I'll bring my thread up a couple of mil up the needle, and I'll fold it back again, and I'll create my second segment. And do the same process again. So hold back this piece, get your thread up and then go directly in. If you try to do it from underneath, you will get evidence of thread moving up along at an angle, and it just thanks Kevin for that. There we go, folks. European needle numbers run from 60 to 1110 USB. Very good, excellent. Always good to learn something new. So that allows me to move my thread up along and have no evidence, and I just have lovely clear segmentation on my foam rather than having any any kind of evidence of any thread going up. So again, complete the process and move up along, and just do so for as long as you want till you get the right amount of segments that you desire for the detached body of your fly. Not a hard job to do, building these detached bodies with the foam. I quite enjoy it actually. They're lovely when they're finished and finished well. They can be very good looking and very, fantastic looking on a really nice fly. You take your time with them. Just do whip finish then. A little bit of whip finish over there. Tighten up. Don't over tighten. There's no need. How you doing, Lucas? Now let's say for this particular mayfly body, we're going to have a little bit of, inner segments. We want to add a little bit of colour. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of red in there, especially for a fishing lock arrow maybe, or some of those lakes. This mayfly detached body can be quite good. Take up a little bit of Tommy fly number 16. Put that away, or waste, and just put a couple of turns in there. Adds a lovely little bit of colour in that segment. Okay, and if I was doing an olive body, or I was doing, sometimes if I'm doing olive I might put yellow segments in there, sometimes if I'm doing tan I might put brown segments in there. It really does, like, have some fun with it. Then I'm going to put in a black segment there, a good strong black segment. Two nice segments in there at the end, a black and a red. Switch them around, do them whichever way you prefer. And you can see that body there now is spinning on the needle, and that's fine because the Kevlar doesn't stick to the needle as such. There's no wax on it, so that's perfect. How you doing, Colette? That's perfect. I don't mind. It's lovely and loose, and that's fine. So it's going to be so easy for me to slip that away and get it onto my hook when I'm ready to do it. So then you can go a brown or whatever you might want. We'll put in a brown or two there, and then I can show you about mounting this particular fly or this particular body. Put in a brown or two there, give you a nice segmentation, or to put in one brown, saying we'll move on because we've a bit to get through tonight. So once I got my different coloured segments in there, what I'll do then is I'll use a little bit of the lacquer. Okay, this lacquer is always handy. How you doing, Neil Walker? Good stuff. Did you catch any, Neil? He was out fishing for pike. A little bit of lacquer. So you've got little drops on this needle, handy little needle from who does these? Tommy Fly. Tommy Fly does these. We're actually out of stock, but we have a load of these on the way back in. We have a load of spring stock coming in at the moment and getting ready for the season. So once I'm happy, it's all lacquered up, that's fine. All I do is catch the whole thing between my finger thumb, give it all a good catch, and just slide it straight off the needle. And there we have a lovely little detached body, ready to be mounted on a mayfly. Okay, sometimes I'll put it down on the table and I'll give it a little roll. Makes everything nice and round, takes any bit of squareness off it. Okay, now what I want to show you now is about the anchor. Okay, I'm going to hope you get to see this. Okay, so in my left hand I have the tail. Okay, in my left hand I have the wait till I use pliers and try and get this across to you as best I can. I find it's very important. So you can see I have in the tweezers here, I have this. You're watching my tail, and I'm going to catch my anchor and I'm going to pull out that core until I see the tail tighten up. So basically I'm straightening all the turns of thread underneath that would have been on the needle, and in a moment it's going to catch onto the wraps around the tail. It's going to catch onto those wraps around the tail, and the tail will tighten up, and I can shorten that tail. You see the tail moving a little bit? Not sure if you can see it, but the tail is moving a little bit. So now all those wraps of thread around that tail feather and up around there have tightened in on that tail. Okay, so they're absolutely dead tight. Yeah, absolutely dead tight, and that whole thing is lovely and secure. Okay, so when I go to wrap this onto my hook now, if I was putting this onto my hook, I'll get a hook out here and I'll show you about mounting. If I'm mounting onto my hook, I'll put in my B100 size 10, say, or whatever you're going to tie with. I'll put back on my Kevlar. Say the last thing you want to do is that body to either fall off or be taken by a throw, especially if you go to the hassle of putting in wings and all that kind of stuff, right? So when I'm ready to mount it, I have my core and I have my foam. Okay, so I'll fold back those two pieces of foam there. I'll fold those two pieces back and expose that core. And I'll get it in there. And I'll make sure all the first wraps are just around about that core. So get it in, get a couple of nice wraps on that core. And I'm going to tighten up that now in a few minutes once I've got the... So once I'm happy and there's a couple of turns on that, that's fine. Leave that out the back. Now I'll actually sit in my body where I kind of want it to be, coming off my hook. Okay. You can trim away a little bit of that excess if you want, just so it doesn't over bulk up the body. And what I can do is I can sit in like so. And I know what you got wrapped around my core. Just got it wrapped around my thread and unwrap that there now. Seconds. That's there. Now go back to my foam body. Get that out of the way. There we go. And I'll take a couple of wraps around that. As that anchor is just a little bit long, so I'm actually going to trim it up a little bit, make life easier on myself. So once I'm happy that's in the correct position that I want it to be, I'll wrap in around me foam, sitting exactly where I want it to be, and then I'll just get the camera back there a little bit for you. So as you can see, a really nice kind of kick up off of that. And what I'll do then is I'll catch my core and I'll give that a pull. And making sure everything, that core, that Kevlar, the Kevlar is so strong you can't break it. That Kevlar will go right through the vein of that detached body, and is attached to this, wrapped around all those wraps we put around that pheasant tail, and where we weaved in through, they've all tightened up and caught that pheasant tail. And I can tell you now, that pheasant tail is going nowhere, and nor is that body. That's there on, it's really well secure, and you'll get a couple of extra fish out of it. Now look, it's not going to last forever. So don't say after 10 trout or 10 fish you're saying, geez, that detached body fell apart. Peter Driver and I said it was going to last forever. It's not. But you're going to certainly get a lot of time out of it, okay? I also find pulling that core sometimes a bit extra will give you a bit of curvature, extra curvature on that body, because you obviously shorten up the Kevlar inside, so you can really give that, once you tighten in, that'll stay in that formed position because it's so tight. The Kevlar's tight going the whole way through. It actually, you know, it won't really straighten out or fall down on you. It'll hold that form for quite a bit. So it's really important to you know, be conscious about your anchor point, or your anchor and your core there, as regards how you work it, because you know it's the foundation to the fly. And you can move on then, wrap everything up, get everything nice and secure, and you head on and you build your fly, put in your dub and your wings and your hackles and all that stuff, and you got a beautiful detached body fly there. That'll work really, really well for you, for your mayflies and all that kind of stuff. And you can see it's got lovely shape to it. Simple, just take your time on it, like getting, folks. Going to move on now and do another detached body. I'm not going to complete that fly. I'm going to move on and do another detached body for you. This is the one I was actually particularly asked for by a couple of people. Was this particular one, and it's a deer hair detached body. Some people really struggle with it. It's not that complicated. Again, it's just about doing the simple little things right. So again, we're going to go back to our needle on this one. Put in our needle there, and again I'll just move that camera because everything's going to be focused up on the front of this one. So put in our needle, and then again we're going to use our Kevlar. Again, you know, using the likes of Kevlar is a big help, because it just slips off that needle so easy. And we're going to add that in. Of course, I left the core a bit short there in that one, so I'll just lengthen out my core. And we'll tie that all down. We're going to be doing some jig streamers after this, some really good early season jig streamers. And don't forget, for anybody that shares the stream or comments on the stream, we'll be into Windows streamers. I'll get them out and post them on Monday. Dave will be along as well with a bit of a trivia quiz there. We got a lovely spot prize here. We got some leaders, or spring stock of Scarifly tapered leaders are in, and I got a full set of leaders there for you, and a couple of spools of Hanic fluorocarbon, grey fluorocarbon for anybody. You're very welcome. Kieran. Glad you like them. The shows, yeah, I don't know if look at I'm in turmoil about next year. I'm definitely going to be doing shows next year. I love doing them, and it's not even just that yes, look, they are good for the business, of course. It allows me to show my wares to you and talk to you and, build up a relationship with my customers. And it's also, I love doing it for being able to give something back because, people keep our business open because they shop with us. And this is my way of saying thanks and kind of give something back to the angling community. And I love the community that we've created through these live shows and stuff, but I would just love to do them. Thanks, Bernard. I'd love to do them a bit better, to be quite honest, and I'd love to do them a bit more in depth. And there's so many ideas for shows. People send me so many messages and so many, we'll do a show on this and we'll do a show on that and we'd love you to do a show on different venues and different types, and it's just so many. I could go all year, but it's the time. And of course, in this business, folks, this is my only job. This is how I make my living, the little bit of it you do make, and time is money, unfortunately. So if I'm going to do something a bit bigger, a bit different next year, well then I don't know how you would feel about a subscription, a small subscription of something like €1.50 a week or €2 a week. That would allow me, justify me putting in that extra time. At the moment, it takes nearly a full day to do a show. Again, I set everything up, get everything ready and all, and then it's all evening tying the show. So I don't know how you'd feel about that. It's something I'll have to think about. I know I am working with Innovation Kilkenny, Carlo, at the moment, innovating around YouTube channels, and this show particularly, they came across the show and they couldn't, they thought it was fantastic. So I'm doing a bit of work with them up in Carlo Institute of Technology, Carlo University of Technology, as I say now at the moment, or Carlo University, around innovation around these shows. And they're kind of helping me think about the idea of doing a bit more of a permanent show that's going to be on all year round, not just during the winter, a subscription kind of a thing, where we will do a lot of fly fishing around. We will do a lot of fly fishing around Ireland, Europe, all that kind of stuff. And through the show, then you'd be able to follow me and all live, directly follow me and be part of that journey with Pescari Fly. So anyway, look, it's something I'm thinking about. I'll talk, and I do appreciate everybody's feedback, of course, because we're all in it together as far as I'm concerned. So I do appreciate anyone's feedback on anything like that going forward. But we'll definitely have shows next year. So anyway, I got a little bit of natural deer here. Again, this is this is €50 question. There you go, very pricey. Thanks, Tim. So this is a bit of natural deer here. I'm going to build this one. It's a little daddy body, okay, for daddy long legs. So I know how you doing, Dennis Coolan. Thanks, Jared. So I'm not doing a tail on this one, okay. So if I was doing a tail, obviously I'd put in my tail at this stage, and we do it exactly as we did before. But this is for a daddy long legs, okay. So we don't want to do a tail on. So just a little bit of natural here. Now it's a small amount, okay. It depends on the size of your tail, really, what you want, okay. They are quite strong and stuff. Thanks, Dennis. They are quite strong and stuff like that. Once we kind of build it and get the core, say, well together. So you don't need to overdo it on the deer hair. I probably underdone it a little bit on that one, but I'll add another little bit to it just to make sure I've got myself covered. I want to say don't add too much, and then I go and add too little. It look like a right But anyway, so I don't bother stacking them. I kind of just tease out the one or two longer ones, and then I just gather the edges together. Thanks, Sebastian. Gather the edges together, and I'm here now, and I'm going to put those tips in on the very tip of that needle, as you can see there. Okay, so with my right hand, hold them up there. Once I'm glad I got them in position, I'm happy enough, I swap over my hand and just do a couple of wraps there at the edge of the needle. Again, not putting massive pressure on that thread. Couple of wraps. One or two might break away or loosen up. That's fine. That's okay. We don't need them. We've got plenty there. And I'll just start moving my left hand down along the needle, and at the same time just wrapping with thread. Thanks, John. Wrapping down with thread. I think if I do a subscription package, it's going to be a lot higher produced, because then I'll have something to get extra tech and software. It will be all year round. There would also be opportunities there to do much smaller, very intense kind of, if there was 3 or 4 people, oh man, Patrick, 3 or 4 people that wanted one specific topic covered, well then, as part of your subscription, we could organise evenings during the week where actually 3 or 4 people will come on, and I will do something specifically for you guys as part of the subscription. Also, we're looking at merchandise. You would receive merchandise for your subscription, and things like that. We might do an annual, as part of it, then we'd be able to do an annual get together where I would say pick the River Nore or the Shore or the Barrow or Blackwater or somewhere around the country and say, right, for all our subscribers, this is your day out, free of charge. Come along, food, fishing, the whole thing, and that would be part of your subscription as well. So we have a load of ideas that if we're going to go ahead with it, you know, it's all about looking at the platform, it's looking about the time, and it's also looking about the content. And, you know, it's all well and good. So all I'm doing is just folding those deer hairs back along that needle. So I'm making sure that they've kind of, when I done my wraps, they all went around to complete some curve. So see, as I spin that, it's all the way around, okay? Now you see the way I tie in the tips really near the edge, because we got that lovely dark brown here at the very tip, okay? That's your natural colour up here at the tips of your deer hair. We want that exposed because we want that natural brown going up into a lighter brown. It gives a lovely effect on this deer hair body. Thanks, Nigel. So yeah, look, that's where I'm planning for. That's kind of what I'm planning for maybe next year. Just to be able to do a bit better for you guys, and I'll enjoy it more, because sometimes I do finish these shows and actually be quite frustrated after them. Even though people give you massive and great feedback. I'm just putting a little bit of brown marker here on my Kevlar. Give you great feedback, but I feel I could do them better, and I could do them a lot more in dent. And then, you know, when I do ones, let's say likes of when we had Betty and Michael Hayes on last year, and we had my dad on this year, they were lovely shows, and I really enjoyed doing them. And it's great to be able to archive those conversations I had with those people, and they're up there now on YouTube, and they're going to be there forever. Generations will be able to see those things. And I think if I had ability and time to get more around the country and meet more of those folks and get those stories and get them onto our channels and stuff like that, and they're there for generations to come, you know, because there's, as we all know, there's a lot of fishing stories out there to be told, and it could be quite an interesting part of the show, travelling around a bit. And I do travel a bit, so it's not as if I'm going to have to travel new, but it's just having the platform and the ability to bring you guys and girls all along with me throughout the show. Okay, throughout the entire year, not just the winter months. We'll always have our flight time shows during the winter months. This is just taking it another step further. Okay, so once I've done a bit of brown colouring on that thread, I just stroke back those deer hair, and I make sure they're nice and tight to the needle, getting a nice tin. And just as we did before, we'll start off with our first wrap back there, a couple of mil, creating our first segment. Now everything's nice and tidy, everything's nice and neat back there. You can see. Thanks, Brian. So everything's nice and neat back there, and you can see them. Now what I'll do is exactly what I did before. Rather than just swiveling over your thread, if you take the top half of that deer hair, get your thread up and in underneath the top. Okay, and then that allows me. Then I'll stroke it back down, and now I've already moved up towards the vise a couple of mil, and I can get another wrap. And again, what I've got there is lovely clean segments. It's quite a fine little body in this one. So lovely little clean segments there. No under kind of thread or little thread exposed there underneath that. So again, lift it up and just take your time and work your thread in there nice and neat. Fold it back down. And again, deer hair, you can have a lot of fun with different colours. You can even do dual colours, a particular colour going up through the top, and then another colour kind of on the underbelly of your detached body. Again, always remembering your core, because that's the whole thing that's going to keep this thing together. And I'm just working my way up along there, just taking my time, not putting again too much pressure on the thread, because I don't want to damage that deer hair. Just taking your time, working your way up. And I'll go one more. Gives lovely daddy bodies. For daddy long legs, I do love doing the deer hair ones. They're lovely, especially for small little daddies. If you're doing a nice little size 10 or a 12, can be super good. You get a lovely tight body, and that's a really nice. And you can see now my colour. You see why I tie in the tips. Look at the lovely segmentation of colour going up to that body there, from dark up to natural. You know, you got lovely natural colours there, but didn't have to do anything with it. And you got your brown segments there. It really is really good. Doing your little deer hair bodies for your daddies. And mayflies, of course. Tying off whip finish there, and I'll just remove a little bit of it. Now I'll take a little bit of Flugu, which is from Vineyards. Okay, it's a softer varnish, I think is pretty much what it is. It doesn't set rock solid. And sets a bit flexy, and what we'll do is just put a little bit of Flugu onto that to help give it a little bit of support. Not much, just using a little needle. Just rubbing in a little bit along, and then I'll tend to rub it in with my finger and thumb as well, kind of pressing it into the body a bit. I don't want a shiny finish off, and I won't get it. I want that real nice natural look. Thanks, Kevin. So, who's asked a question there? I just want to go back on that. Neil Hamilton. So, for reference, what length are those segments each? So, you're talking about each little segment. You're looking at maybe 3 mil. Yes, Neil. It depends on the fly. Let's say the Mayfly one, a little bit bigger because I was working foam. This little daddy one that I'm doing because I would build this for a finer, maybe a size 10 or 12. Or, you know, I would put maybe only 2.5 to 3 mil there between those, Neil. That's all. It's up to yourself. It depends on what you're tying. It depends on what you're tying. Again, same as before. You catch the whole thing between your finger and thumb, completely secure there between the thumb. Pinch quite hard, and then just slide it straight off. Okay, one straight movement. The whole thing comes off, and then there's your lovely little daddy body. Lovely little detached daddy bodies, you can see. Really, really nice little segments. Very fine and quite strong. Believe it or not, it has actually got great strength there. And our core, again, is out the back here. So we can give that a little bit of a tighten up. And then once it tightens up, then it's not going anywhere. And you will attach your core in first. Or it's a bit more difficult mounting this one on a hook. Let me see if I can find a hook here. I'll just use this one here again. I'll just clean off this... So what I tend to do, once I get the core kind of tightened up a bit, what I'll do then is I'm just going to cut that off. Shame wasting a nice body butcher. What I'll do then, just for imagine for a minute, folks, that wasn't there. And of course, with a live show of something like that nature, the reason why I like doing it, would like to do it live, is because there's no, there's plenty of bleepers, and it's all about having a bit of fun, of course. You know, if it was being mass produced and, you know, there was a bit of time spent on production, which there will be some part of it, but, like, you know, live is live, and that's what it makes it. It makes it real, and I always like the idea of being real, which is, and that, you know, if I cut thread the wrong way, or if I put something on wrong, or it falls off or it breaks, well, then that's what happens to every flight there. You know, there's no one out there that's perfect. And I like to show those problems as well. So if I was tying this on, once I got my core good and tight inside it, I just stroke back on my deer here, and I would get it in there on top of my hook like so. Couple of turns to secure it in, and before I trim it up, I'd give that another little check, give it another little pull to make sure everything's going strong. And you can see is the more I pull it, the more that kicks up. And once I'm happy with my position of my body, well, another turn or two, and now I'll trim that away and look at that lovely body that would produce off the back of your Mayfly or the back of your daddy. You know, and it depends on the way you mount it, whether you want it sitting back flat or do you want it sitting up at an angle, like so. Let's take that out of the way. So you can imagine that there now sitting up nice like that, like with a nice Mayfly. Look at our lovely coloured, our natural colours at the top, where it tans down into the black. And yeah, I know, Neil. Yeah, I could actually probably do it. And something I'm going to try and do this year, actually pick up a camera that will really get macro for this kind of thing. I think with a better production as well as regards with the format and the system I'm using. I'm no way techie, I always tell you that. But there is a few people up in the Institute that are very techie, and they're looking at new streaming software for me to be able to stream live that will be able to give me a couple of angle shots, and I'll be able to switch cameras quite easily, not like I do here now, because at the moment I'm trying to read the screen, I'm trying to look at the fly tying, I'm trying to tie the fly, I'm trying to read the comments, and I'm trying to click everything. So if I get my system set up by next year a little bit easier, I will be able to do some stuff a little bit better. But there you can see the lovely body on that one. Really nice detached body. Really love tying those little deer hair ones, and you can get them really, really fine, you know, and they are quite strong. Absolutely, Garrett. Yeah, that's why I'd like to keep it live. You know, I don't think I'll ever get into some of that. You know, we always put. I have a load of videos made for YouTube for the summer, and they're great. You know, you do pick up some. You will pick up some, but it's nothing like a live show. Especially if we're doing live interviews. If I was travelling the country and doing live interviews with people and meeting up with anglers all over the country and doing the fly tying and everything, giving information on different venues and, you know, things like that, different patterns and stuff like that, and gathering. I think you know, I would love to do it. I would love the opportunity to do it, to be quite honest with you. I think it's something I am going to do just because I would love the idea of gathering that information, having that bank of information there that everyone can access pretty much. So there we have it, folks. That's our detached bodies, okay? Look, 3 lovely, simple detached bodies. The guys and girls are asking for those. I hope that's helped you. I'm not going to go into do a deer or a dubbing one of the Dublin ones, they're a little bit more complex, and you got to wait for glue time to set and stuff like that. That's a whole show in itself. Thanks, Desmond. That's a whole show in itself, and that might come down along the line, okay? Or I might do a YouTube video on that, doing the Dublin ones themselves, because you do have to wait. You have wait time for glues to set and stuff like that. But there's 3 lovely little detached bodies. I hope you get to try some nice flies with them during the spring months and summer months, and have some good success to them. I do love tying them, because they're beautiful when you tie a nice detached body and pull, and all you want after that is a bit of hackle and 2 wings, and it's done. And they're gorgeous. Like, you're picking out of the box going, oh, this is so beautiful. Like, you're nearly kind of, oh, please don't let a trout take it, because if a trout takes it, he's going to make a mess of my lovely detached body. But build them good enough, look at your anchors and stuff like that, and you'll be able to tie some nice ones. So folks, I'm going to take a little breather for 2 minutes. I'm going to clean off the desk, and I'm going to get ready. Brilliant. I'm going to get ready to do you some jig streamers. Okay, got 2 jig streamers coming up. You're going to want to have them in your box with this cold spell coming in, and if we get a bit of rain and rivers get a bit of depth, you're going to want some of these. Thanks a million, Garrett. Brilliant. Appreciate that. Definitely. But he's going to want to tune in and watch these. I am going to hand you over to Robbie Berry, and Robbie is going to do a little bit of talking about how to harvest feathers from a hen pheasant and what you should be looking for. Okay, what useful feathers and all that. I'll see you back here in a few moments, folks. Enjoy this. See you soon.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all keeping well. I'm Robbie Berry, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Tonight I want to talk about hen pheasants. So you're after getting your hands on a hen pheasant, or you're after going out and basically, or someone's after giving you a hen pheasant. You're watching this show, you're a fly tyer, you want to use a hen pheasant now. What feathers do you use for fly tying? So basically, the hen pheasant is a really good bird. It's an important and popular bird in fly tying. Its feathers does have a lot of uses. So it's utilised in a lot of flies. So it's a very popular bird, and in my opinion, it's as important as or as good as a grey partridge or a partridge feather. Okay, and when I say that, I mean it's the hen pheasant is a really, if you run your hands down that hen pheasant, it's a very soft bird. It's absolutely so soft, it's unbelievable. And similar to a partridge feather is very soft as well. So every feather on a hen pheasant can be used as a soft hackle or a soft feather. Do you know what I mean? It's that has that much of a usage to it. So basically, starting with the tail, okay, and if I position the bird, I just pull it up into view of the camera. So the hen pheasant tail, basically, again, really good, really important feather. You'll never get the tail on a hen pheasant to be as long as that of a cock pheasant, okay? Just will never be. But that being said, this has so many uses, okay, and it's a really good feather. So like the hen, or like the cock pheasant, this will tie really good pheasant tail lengths, okay? Be different colours, but has a really good, if you look at the hen pheasant, has really good, nice, like marbling through, a nice brown and khaki colours through and stuff like that. So it's really good, okay, and creates really good nymphs and stuff. Again, if you look at the fibres there, if you look at the feather, I won't pull the feather on this one now, but I'll zoom it in there. And if you look at the feathers on the pheasant tail, just pulling it up, see how long they are. So they're really good, really long feathers. And again, if you're good at knotting feathers, and making knotted legs out of pheasant tail feathers, you'll get a knot into one of these, and again, they make good knotted legs. They're good for creating bodies on wets and dries, as well as as nymphs. Okay, so pheasant tail really good, and the fly called the Invicta is actually tied using the hen pheasant tail feather. So really important. Now, as you're making your way up the bird from the tail, and you're coming up into the flank. So again, if you're sliding, how you get it, if you slide your hand up the tail and in underneath that there, the flank will lift, or the rump, sorry, will lift. Okay, so coming up, just lift, the rump will lift up, and that's how you find the rump. Okay, the rump is just basically sitting on top, it's the feather sitting on top of the tail. And again, The rump is really soft, so every feather on this bird is a soft feather, and the rump being an exception, or being the same, it's really soft. Okay, I use these for streamers to make nice streamers. They wouldn't be as big or wouldn't be as long as a cock pheasant, but they're nice, and being soft, they have that little bit more movement in them. Again, you can use them for soft hackles, and I do pull them off and use them for tails on flies as well. So pull out the fibres off one of them and use them for tailing and stuff. So they're good, coming in underneath the underbody plumage. Sorry. So on a hen pheasant, if you come in lift the wing, and the best place to find you'll find them on the rump, but come down on the side, and if you come up on the leg and all underneath the tail, the leg, and all up underneath the wing, if you lift the flank feathers underneath the wing, basically where the golden slides or arm and heart would be on a cock pheasant, you lift that, all them feathers underneath there are your underbody plumage. And if you can see them on a hen pheasant, they're a little bit lighter, but they're a little bit softer, so they've got that little extra movement through them. And again, really important for tying streamers and stuff like that. So with the rump, again, I utilise the underbody plumage, or that marabou like feather, with the rump feather for tying streamers and patterns. So if you come up, we look at the wing here. So the wing on a hen pheasant is a really popular feather. Okay, it's an important feather. The primary feathers on the wing, which are these ones here, are used for creating wings on sedges and caddises and dry flies, wings on wet patterns, so wet flies and stuff like that. So they're really good feather. One of my favourite flies to fish is actually the wing is made using hen pheasant quills. It's the grey flag. Okay, but you can the hare's ear wet and the marsh brown wet again utilise the primary feathers of the hen pheasant. So really good for creating wings on dries and various flies and wets. Okay, if you come up off the rump, okay, now there isn't really the church. You kind of like, if you look at the church windows, they come down a good bit more onto the rump here on a hen pheasant. Okay, so they kind of begin to kind of start about here, but you can see them there. So they're coming down basically. They start on the neck, the upper neck, and they come down into the shoulders, and they come down to the really lower rump. Okay, and the church windows again. Church windows on a hen pheasant are good for soft hackles, good for wets and nymphs. Okay, again, good for creating wing cases on sedges. I again use them for soft hackling my nymphs. I use them for spiders, things like that. Like so, a really good feather. And again, a substitute for partridge. I have used them for a substitute for partridge. Again, tie them in like that. So they're a really good feather. There's so much uses for them. Basically, that's it on a hen pheasant. Like again, if you look at this wing coming up under you'll have it on both sides. So, every feather can be used on a hen pheasant. So as similar to a cock pheasant, but that is nearly being the same colour the hen pheasant. There is just the same amount of feathers, but they don't have the same colours. But they're equally just as good. Smaller, softer. So you get more use. You will get just as much use out of them as will cock pheasant. So that's basically it. So just to recap, you have your church windows. Okay, so your church windows again, coming down off your neck. Really popular again, just for your likes of your nymphs, your wet flies. If you want a soft hackle spider, or you want a soft hackle I do soft hackle nymphs and stuff. They're perfect for it. Good for creating wing cases and stuff like that on sedges. Just usually the same as a cock pheasant, applying a bit of varnish to them just to make them more supple or more stronger, harder. You have your rump coming down here then, again, great for streamers, great for, again, wets and stuff like that. Your underbody body plumage coming all the way up along underneath the flank, okay. Your flank feather is good again then for the same thing, wings and things like that. You have your main primary, so again for creating sedge wings, grey flag wings, hare's ear, March brown wet, wings. So really good for wet and dry fly wings. So, like I said, the hen pheasant has so many uses, but every feather can be used. So don't be afraid to utilise them. That's basically it on a hen pheasant, so I hope you enjoy this. I hope it's helpful to you, and when if you're able to get your hands on one and you have one, hopefully this will help you in using the feathers. So thanks a million.
I hope everybody enjoyed a little segment with Robbie. Thanks, Robbie. Another great segment there with Robbie. Robbie's wealth of knowledge on animals and birds and feathers. It's great to have someone with his expertise that's willing to come on and share the information and give us advice on feather care and stuff like that. Thanks a million, Robbie, for all your contribution, and indeed everyone else for all your contribution over the season. So we're going to move on here now, and we're going to tie a jig streamer. Okay, been tying some of these this week. A lot of people looking for jig streamers for the start of the season and stuff, and these are some really good and not overly complicated jig streamers for that early season, fishing those deep pockets and really getting down to some good trout early part of the season. And indeed, you can fish them all year round, folks. It's not just early part of the season, but they're handy to have a couple of these jig streamers in the box with you. So in the vice here, I've got a HJ120. This one's a size 8. It's from Haynes. Okay, quite a big strong jig hook, and Dave is on there, folks. Well, question coming up, keep your eyes on that one. HG120 size 8. Really good, strong, large size jig hook. These go right up into 4s and stuff like that. So if you want to try some big jig streamers, well then the HJ120 from Haynes would probably be some of the biggest ones out there. I got a 4mm black slot of tungsten bead sitting up on that hook there as well, folks. And I'm going to start off by adding in a little bit of Kevlar. Okay, a little bit of Kevlar in there. And cut away your waist. Put in a nice little base there to start us off. Don't come down the whole way down the hook, there's no need. Okay, the one thing I want to try and achieve with this particular type of thanks, Jared. One thing I would like to try and achieve with this particular type of streamer is I don't want too much weight. In a similar fashion when you're tying streamers for saltwater or streamers for pike, you don't want to create too much weight in that fly by the materials you use or whatever. So, we're not going to tie the full into the body. I'm going to tie in a little bit of flash here out of the back of this fly first. So I'm just cutting off a little bit of hank of pearl, a little bit of pearl tinsel here. And I'm just going to lash that in. Flip it over and tie it out the back. A little bit too much there, so I'll thin that out a little bit. Take out a couple of those. And just leave that sticking quite long out the back for the moment. Just for the moment. Just move that camera a little bit again, just to make sure I catch the full length of this for you. Okay, leave them sticking out the back there for the moment, tie them in, make sure they're well secure and they're fine, they're not going anywhere. We're going to start with a little bit of black, so we're going back to this streamer here, the same stuff that we were using for the excuse me, the same stuff we were using for our furling earlier on in our little detached body. We're going to have a little bit of this streamer here, and I'm going to select a small bit of the black, and I always kind of give it a bit of a twist because it lets me know how dense it's going to be when I kind of tie it in. And again, less is more here, folks. We don't want a big massive there's a question for you now for your Googlers. What would Peter Driver use for the wing of a dry something another? I'm not going to try and pronounce that. That is Latin. I should be able to, but I'm not going to because I'm sure I'll be wrong. Incorrect, should I say. So we're going to tie a little bit of this black streamer here over the top here. Okay? What would Peter Driver use for... Good question, Garrett. That's covering yourself very well there. Yeah, well done. Little bit of black of that streamer here over the top. Okay, just like so. You see, not too much, nice and sparse, but enough. The one thing I like about streamer hair, it puffs up a little bit, and when it gets wet, it goes puff. So even a small amount of hair will give you a lovely kind of density to the body, like, you know. And it's not Tommy Thread, Dave Donovan said. Good stuff. So once I've got that tied in, I'm then going to switch to another 2 colours, and I am going to. There will be a bonus prize tonight. I'm going to have 2 prizes tonight. One prize will be for who gives the correct answer to Dave's question. What is the material I would use to tie for that the wing of that fly? And another bonus prize for the person that tells me what that fly is called in English. So here we have a little bit of tan. A little bit of tan. A little bit of tan. A little bit of tan streamer fibre, and again just a small amount, not too beefy on it at all. And what we're going to do is just hold this back roughly over the back of that fly to see what length it is. I want to come back as long as the black, okay, and then I'm going to switch it over in my hands, and we're going to tie it in over the bead. I'm wrong. No, actually I'm right. Yeah, I'm right. Okay, going to tie that back in over the back of the bead, and make sure it's tight to the back of the bead. Okay, nice and tight in there to the back of the bead. Now, Dave, you're going to have to watch all those answers and tell me who gets the right answers, because I'm going to keep tying this fly, folks. And if I start watching all those answers, I'll be watching them all. We're going to turn that hook upside down, and we're going to take some white fibre, some white, and I'm going to do the same on the underside of this, okay? This kind of style of ties gives you large streamers with literally or no weight as such for the casting purposes. Yes, you'll have quite a bit of weight once she gets wet, and she'll go down, but excuse me, she'll have a bit of weight once she goes down, but when she's up in the air, she won't. Again, just give it a little bit of roll between the finger and thumb. Just get you a nice idea of your proportions and the density of that piece of material. And once again, we can just hold that in and get it fairly about the same length as the tan piece we put in. Just trim her off a little bit. John Coughlin. Is there anyone else before John Coughlin with that same answer? Now, we're going to tie that in over there, underneath, and tie it up nice and tight against the bead as well. Okay, and just make sure it's right up in underneath. And just trim away the bulk of that. You're then going to catch your tan. And your white. Make sure the thread comes through the white, and that white is split. Just take a moment, and it gets up, stroke it back, so you get an even distribution on both sides of the hook, and just trap it down there up at the head. Okay, just like so. All right, we'll get that a little bit tighter there now in a minute. So what I'll do now is I'll give that a little bit of a brush out. Make sure all my fibres are exactly where I want them to be. There's an even mix on both sides of that hook of the white. And there we're going to have a nice shape to that now. Okay, we've finished that off. I don't know, Hugh. Sorry, but I don't know. If it's a case that I have to go back and watch the show again and figure out who won, I don't know. But Dave was watching it, I'm sure. So once I've got that done, I'm quite happy. Now I'll just trim off some of these tail ends and a bit of flash that I left a little bit long. Just trim them off roughly. Don't do a straight cut. Any of those longer pieces that might be just a little bit. There we have. Lovely. Okay, next thing we're going to do is put a little bit of Tommy fly in there. This is Tommy fly number 16. And we're going to put a little bit of red in there. Build it up a little bit. 2 little bits sticking out of place there. Oh man, Kieran Sherlock wants to know. Google went down there then, did it? Kieran Sherlock wants to know if Dave got the pennies. Okay, so once I've got that done, and I did, the one part I actually went back to sugar anyway. This is the joys of live flight time. I should have put a little bit of tan. Okay, so this, I knew I was looking at the flight thing. Something missing there. I remember earlier on I said, oh no, I made a mistake, and I didn't. I actually was right, but then with my confusion of watching the questions and stuff there, and some people's very, very funny comments, I forgot to put a little bit of tan. So I'm just going to explain it to you, and I'm just going to finish the fly as it is. It'll still be quite fine, but normally for this particular pattern, what I do is get a little bit of tan. This is craft fur. Okay, it's just the colour on it, and what I would do is once I folded everything back and brushed it all back and got it into nice shape, I would then have a nice little bit of tan going across the top, just like so. Okay, that would normally be across the top there like that, and it would be just tied in like a normal wing, and then I would put my red Tommy Fly thread on over the top of that. Okay, so I'm not going to go back and start again, so you can imagine that's the way it would have been completed. The body, there would have been a nice little bit of tan over the top, and it gives you a nice, really nice natural look to that fly pattern. So Dave is on there. John Coughlin got the fly, the red quill, which is correct, and Graham Lonigan got the wing, which is duck or starling. I would use duck wings to tie a dry red quill, or starling, but starling is so brittle these days, very hard to get good starling unless you're going to pick them off yourself, and there's only a certain time of the year you really want to be harvesting a starling to get the proper colours on them. So that's I was Kevin, yeah. He would too, Shesh, absolutely. So a little bit of brown on it, but like you can do these in all sorts of colour combinations as well, folks. But I normally tend to have a little bit of colour over the top. So I'll continue on and I'll complete the fly. There's still a bit of work left on this one before we go on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in some eyes. Okay, so we're going to turn that on our side. So we're going to turn. So John Coughlin, well done, and Graham Lonigan, both of you will be receiving a selection of the Piscari Fly tapered leaders and some tipping material to get you going at the start of the season. Thanks for watching and taking part. So a little bit of solder resin. We stick the eyes on with the solder resin. The solder resin thick and hard I use, or the thin and hard, whichever. For these particular streamers, I use the thick and hard. So I'm going to squeeze a little dabble of that on. It is the best way, probably the only way, the best way to stick on eyes. You can go with super glue and stuff like that, and it does work, but it'll drive you cracked. Because with the solder resin, we can put it on there, you can leave it there, you can go make a cup of tea, come back and stick that eye on there, and it'll still be there. Okay, it'll still be soft, and it won't set until we actually use our pen to set it. I then use a needle to take off my eye off of the card. Okay, so I've got a little needle here, I slide it in under my eye, and then, because the eyes are adhesive back on them, but it's not strong enough to hold on their own, but it will stick to my needle, as you can see. And allows me just to place it in on top and then just pull away the needle, and now I'll get my UV pen just here beside me, and it's going to set that eye there up on the bead a bit, as you can see. Okay, you're only setting the eyes for a moment, we still have more resin work to do around this. Okay, I'll take another bit of resin on this side. Now, how do we fish these sort of things? I would have quite a long leader, strong as well. You'd fire it into, kind of cast it into the deeper holes or pockets that you wanted to run down through, and let it sink to the bottom. And then you jig it. You jig it back up through that run or through that pocket. Make sure your eyes are on pretty even sides, and give that one another zap. Once you got those eyes stuck in place. Hugh picked up I tied these for Hugh today as well, actually. Yeah, they're super job. And when I actually put a picture up these during the week, Hugh, the amount of people that were looking to see how they're tied, they're simple enough. But so now I'm going to fill up all that area at the top and underneath with the resin, creating a nice little head. Don't be afraid to put plenty of it in there. Get a little artist brush, and we'll just give that a little bit of a brush around, making sure we have a nice head, and that it's all covered in around all those eyes, giving them plenty of strength. They're never going to go anywhere. I kind of hold the body back a bit and give it a bit of a pull, because any of that resin that's gotten around the edge of that body will help to hold it in place and give it a nice shape and keep the nice slim look to that streamer body. As you can see, there's not much material in the body, but that particular streamer material, it kind of puffs up a little bit when it gets wet. It makes it look very meaty and very, very effective, but there's no great weight in it as such. There's no weight in that streamer. And there we have it, folks. Really, really simple little streamer. Very, very effective. Can be tied in a ton of colours. If you go back on my Facebook page there over the last week, and you'll see some pictures of the different colours I would have put that into. But you can see it's a very, very effective little streamer. It's going to get down, it's going to jig quite well and pull through, very soft, so there will be lots of movement in it. And if a trout grabs hold of it, there's no resistance there to get to the hook. Can be done a lot. I would like a little bit of tan on the top of it, but simple little streamer pattern, jig streamer, and really works quite well. And you can tie them any size you want. Okay, that one there is about 2.5 to 3 inches long. You can tie them a lot smaller. Tie them right down into even size. I've tied them over the years right down to 16s. Small little micro jig streamers. That one's a bit bigger. It's handy for the show, kind of showing in the camera, you can see it. And there you go, that's the first one, first jig streamer. No problem with penetration there in that one. Next one now, we're going to go a size bigger. We're going to go size bigger. We're going to go up to size 6. So this is a H-Jig 120 size 6, and I've got a 5.5mm Hens tungsten bead on that one. This is going to be a bit of a brute, okay? Yeah, that's true too, Dennis. Yeah, absolutely. A marker pen would fix that quite easy. It would. You're spot on. So this is a little bit more of a bigger tie, okay? And this is a good streamer. I've fished this for years. So let me think before I start here. Okay, it's going to be natural. We're going to do some natural zonker here on it. Okay, so we got a nice strip of natural zonker here, about 3mm. Natural zonker, as you can see, nice natural brown. Do these in black and all sort of stuff as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch a hole in the middle of that zonker. Not right down the bottom. I'm not going to use all of this full length, but come up off the bottom there, maybe an inch or so. Depends how long you want your tail. Inch or an inch and a little bit, and punch a hole in that there. Okay, because of the weight of this bead, this jig streamer is going to fish upside down, so we have to tie it upside down. Okay, so once I punch my hole, I'll then take off my hook, and I'll actually put the hook through the hole. Push it through there and try not to rip the skin. Same as the foam, that's why we put a pilot hole in there, because it means you can get it through and it won't rip that skin. Okay? So once you got that through, it can be a little bit awkward to get the first bit of the tying done on this fly, but take your time. Got it through, put it back in the vise. Leave all that out of the way as best you can. Okay, get your thread and start off your thread behind the bead. Say a little bit awkward at the very start, but we'll work our way through it. What you can use there, and I've used it sometimes before, is get your magic tool clip. Hold everything back. The bead stop coming back there for me for 1 second. Moisten your finger, moisten it up, and that'll help. Hold everything back out of the way. Once you get back out of the way, use your clip and just put the clip back right there, out of the way, and that'll help hold it a little bit out of the way now. There we go. Right. Now, give me just enough room to get started on this. Okay. Tying in my thread. Kevlar. Now, before I go any further, I will have to attach the back end of this. So get down along the shank of the hook, just before the bend starts, and bring your zonker up underneath. Okay, you can flip the fly over and work on the underside. Okay, so get your zonker in position. Make sure the zonker hair is parted exactly where your thread is going to go, so we don't trap down any of those fibres in the wrong position. Okay, so I'm just exposing the skin there. Exactly that position where it's going to sit nice and straight for me. Just take a moment to get it right. It's very important. You get this just right. Moisten your finger and thumb, and just that moist will help keep that out of the way a little bit. Get your thread in there and and secure that anchor. It spun on me before it. Another couple of turns in there. And make sure it's sitting directly underneath. There we go. Now get your thread back up over the top and come back up and start working that. You can use your clip now again and clip that material back out of the way for a moment. And now we can work on the rest of our fly. So I'm going to put a bit of silver wire in here. Heavy silver wire. This is 0.2 wire. And attach that in there. Then I'm going to put a white rabbit body on this. I'm just looking at the fly I've done here earlier on. Don't forget, folks, you can win these flies by sending in a comment on the stream or by just sharing the stream. You'll be in for a draw to win. A little bit of white rabbit. Put a nice decent piece of meat on the body of this fly, holding everything back. I'm going to take off that clip now. It's a little bit in the way for the moment because I want to stroke everything right back to make sure I get right back to where I tied in that little bit of skin there. Well, it's right upside down, Dennis. So with a 5.5mm bead on this one, the theory is that the hook will ride upwards. The hook will ride upwards, saving getting caught in snags and snagging in the bed of the river. It'll ride invert basically. That's the ideas of using the jig streamers, especially with the bigger, heavier beads like that. They will flip over and ride the opposite way to a standard hook. We want these bouncing off the bottom, so I'm jigging them up and down off the bottom, so they're coming along like that off the bottom, bouncing on the bottom of the rivers. I'll show you when it's kind of finished what I kind of mean. Okay, so put a nice bit of body onto that. And what you're going to do now is spin the hook over again. And now you're going to take your zonker. And again, you're going to stroke everything back. Just watch the barb of that hook. The point of that hook, should I say. It's hidden in that further now for the minute. And until we get everything. You want to get your skin nice and tight there. But I'm trying to expose the hide so I can make sure and get it directly in there. So the skin is exactly underneath that fly. A couple more turns to secure it in. So using Kevlar, you can put a bit of pressure on that there. Again, just giving it a good tug and make sure it's in there. Get your scissors into that point there now, between, and just with the point of your scissors, just cut away the hide and take it away. And now we have our sunker in underneath. Another couple of turns to make sure everything's well tidied up. Now take your rib, and I want you to rib the hole. So in order to rib this, moisten your finger and thumb and get that zonker damp. As you can see, it thins it out a bit and makes it stand straight out. So it's much easier for me to bring it up. It's much easier for me to divide this up with my wire, okay, and get a nice wire rib on it. It gives a strength and it gives just a nice ribbon effect to the streamer. Take your time, parting your rabbit hair exactly where the turn of thread is, or wire is going to be, so we're not folding it down or trapping any materials in the wrong place. Last one, and there we go. Tied it off. Anything could go wrong in this live stream. That's the suspense of it all, Dennis. Is that thanks, Declan. Anything could go wrong in the live stream. I like that idea. Bit of fun. I'm in a safe place here anyway. I know I'm safe with all you guys and girls. So I'll give that a little bit of a brush out. And you can see where our zonker is positioned now. Lovely up underneath. And with that nice top on it, okay? So when that thing is bouncing on the bottom, that tail is going to be absolutely waggling like mad, okay? Driving the trout mad. Okay, we're still not finished. A little bit of work still left to do on it. We're going to take a little bit of ice red metallic dubbing here, okay? Absolutely, Kevin, yeah. So just tease out a little bit of this, okay? Just tease out. It's kind of nice long fibres. And I'll tease out a little bit. Again, not too much. And that's going to go on top. And I'm going to tie it in the middle. And I'm going to fold it over. Trap it in there like so. Okay. Then we're going to put a little bit of a hackle in there. Now the hackle is off a saddle, a grizzle saddle, but I'm using these big broad back end feathers that are not really, they're tapered, but they're not really great fretting, and but they're really good for tying this. They're quite soft, and they're very good for tying in a hackle on the likes of this one. Okay, so take off a little bit of the down, but keep some of the softer fibres on there. If you're tying as a hackle for a wet fly or dry fly, you would take them off. You would strip them back further up that feather, but I'm not going to, because I want that nice softy, really softy kind of look to the head of that fly. Couple of turns of them there, 1.5, 2 turns is enough because they're big enough. And go in there and trim off your waist. Catch all that, pull it back. A couple of turns over the top to get them trapped back. Again, watch that hook that's in underneath. They're sharp hooks. And I'm going to whip finish off that there now. This time I'm actually going to take Glow Bright. Okay, Glow Bright number 4 is going to be my head colour, my collar colour of this one. Oh, the Kevlar didn't come away. And I'm going to put a little band of Glow Bright number 4 up there in the head of that. Keeping everything back in position. Put a nice little band up there. Whip finish it off. Take away our thread, or Glow Bright should I say, and then we're looking for lacquer. Okay, here it is here. Little bit of lacquer, couple of drops around. Make sure that head is well secured on there. And there you have it. That's one hell of a jig streamer. 5.5 mil of tungsten. A lovely zonker. And that's the way it's going to fish. Okay, so I'll take it off. That's the way that fly is going to fish. Okay, hook is going to ride up because of the size of that bead and the way that bead. Now look, it doesn't mean it's always going to do it like that. I'm sure there's times when flies will invert themselves through current or hitting off rocks, but in theory and most of practice, that's the way that fly will ride. Okay, your tippet will come off there, up, straight up. The hook will be facing upwards. The bed of the river will be down here, and that fly will bounce along your river bed like so. Bounce along with the hook facing up, and that tail will be so articulated out the back because the way it's riding, and because you're jigging it up and down, and that's the idea, is jig it up and down, and it's basically a fry pattern, as you can see. The bit of red underneath and the hot collar and the natural tan deer hair gives a super effect. You want to see that jigging. If I had a basin set up here now, maybe for the new shows and stuff, we could actually do some of that kind of crack. It's set up basins and aerators and stuff, and see how these flies actually behave in the water. It'd give you a much more visual effect of how that fly will ride through the water. But it's unusual. It's a really good technique, and it can be very, very good. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks. That's what we could call the new show, Dennis. Maybe. We could call the new show, get plenty of subscribers then. But anyway, that's the way that'll bounce along the riverbed. Really, really interesting streamer to fish. A jig head streamer, 5.5 mil tungsten. Normally it's only those bigger ones that I tend to tie that way. Where if this one, it's 4 mil of tungsten, it will ride certainly inverted to a certain sense, but won't be quite as articulated as the other one. And I just dropped it. It won't be quite as articulated as the other one. One for the box, Bernard. One for the box is absolutely right. It won't be quite as articulated as this one, but that's the idea of that 5.5 mil tungsten and the big long shank size 8, is that's the way that fly arrived. So there we go, folks. There's two great G-Cat streamers. Not massive looking, not massive complicated toys. Just take your time with that big one. And the other one is nice and simple. Less is more when it comes to the body. And don't be afraid to mess around with your colours. And even as Dennis said, you could put some nice barring on those and stuff and different coloured markers, which would give that quite an interesting look. Absolutely, Dylan. Yeah, invest in a swim tank. There might be something we can have a camera on doing the shows next year. A swim tank there, and be able to switch to a camera showing swim tank, and we can test out some of these flies then as well, and different things like that. It'd be brilliant. It'd be absolutely brilliant part of the show. I'll definitely make notes of that one. But there we have it, folks. Our second last show is finished. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope everybody that was looking for detached bodies got something for it. If you have any problems or any queries along the way, folks, please pick up the phone and give us a buzz here on Pescari Fly. We're always more than willing to help out. Hate to hear anyone struggling, and if we can help you out, we will. If we can't, we'll put you in touch with the right person who can. Don't forget, if you need any flight time or fly fishing gear, do check out www.pescarifly.com. We super appreciate all your support. Hi to all our YouTubers, didn't forget us. Hi to all the YouTubers tomorrow. They're going to watch the show tomorrow. Don't forget, I will do the draw for these flies, these lovely jig streamers. I've got a couple of them here. They will be going out to some lucky winner on Monday or Tuesday when I get around to it, folks. Some days I just don't get around to it. It depends how busy the phones and stuff are. And we will see you all back here next Saturday night for our last show of the series. Thanks a million again for all your support. Thanks for everyone watching. Enjoy the crack tonight, folks. Great having a chat with you all. Stay safe in the cold weather during the week, folks. Stay in, stay warm. Tie some flies. Don't worry, the season's going to be long enough for anyone that's thinking about going fishing next week. I'll catch you all next Saturday night. Take care and God bless, and see you all soon.